Let's have a look at exercise 8 in this video. So what do we have here? We have Luca, who has an income of 2,500 euros. He lives in a village. Now, with the probability of 10%, his house can be destroyed by a big fire. In that case, it costs him 1,600 euros to build a new house. Now, Luca's utility is the following function, the square root of his income. Now, he has an option to turn on a fire alarm. And the probability in that case of having the house on fire would only be 5%. But this alarm gives often false alarms. So in that case, he would have a loss in utility equals to x. So he would have a loss in utility. Now, in question 32, under what case, so what does x have to be equal to for Luca to be indifferent between using and not using the fire alarm? Okay, so what are we dealing with here? We have the data written on the right. We want to find out the indifference between using the alarm and not using the alarm. In other words, we are working with the expected utility that Luca would have if he uses the alarm, and that must be the same as the expected utility of not using the alarm. And the reason we speak about expected utility is because we're using probabilities. So we have uncertainty here. That's why we calculate what would happen in expectation. Now, let's solve them one by one. What would be the expected utility of having an alarm? Expected utility of using an alarm. Well, we would have, if we use the alarm, only a 5% probability of destroying the house. So there would be a 0.05% probability, 0.05, which is the same as 5%, multiplied with the utility, which is the square root of income. But the income in this case would be equal to 2,500 euro that Luca has, minus the 1,600 euros that he would have to pay for constructing the house, for building the house. So let's write it over here like that. This is the probability of fire, and therefore he has to incur a cost. Now, with the remaining probability, which is 95%, so plus 0.95, Luca would keep all his money, so that would be square root of 2,500 euros. In other words, this is the probability. So this is the probability of no fire. This is the probability of no fire, so we keep all money. But what also matters is that if we use the alarm, we have a loss in utility. We have a loss in utility of x. So our utility would go down by x. That would be the expected utility of using an alarm. Now, let's solve the expected utility of not using an alarm. So the expected utility of no alarm over here. The expected utility of no alarm, what would that be? Well, we would have, in that case, a probability of fire equals to 10%. It's given in the question. The probability of having the house on fire would be 10%. So we would have 0.10 multiplied with, what would be the income in that case? It would be 2,500 euros minus the cost of building the house. So minus 1,600. This is the probability of fire. This is the probability of fire now, of 10% if we do not use an alarm. So therefore we have to incur a cost of building a new house. Now, what's the remaining probability? Well, it's 90%, which is the same as 0.90 multiplied with square root of the income, because in that case we don't suffer any loss. There would be no fire. So this is the probability of no fire. Probability of no fire over here. So we keep all money. Okay, now what's that gonna equal to? This is equal to 48. So this is gonna equal to 48. Okay, now we have to make them equal, right? That was what we were looking for. We have to make the expected utility using an alarm equal to the expected utility of not using an alarm. What we also have to calculate is this expected utility over here. And that expected utility is equal to 49 minus x. In other words, if we want to make them equal, let me just zoom out to get some more space over here. If we want to make them equal, what we're looking for is for this relationship. So we're looking for expected utility of using an alarm must be equal to the expected utility of not using an alarm. In other words, we're looking for the relationship that 49 minus x equals to 48. So x would be equal to 1. So if x is 1, then Luca would be indifferent between using an alarm and not using an alarm. And the answer key tells us if x is 0.819, which is false, and we are done.